tell me, when I was telling people I was doing this, first of all, immediate interest of everyone my age, and I'm only a few years younger than you, and I feel like you've been around for an entire life of like you're this very young woman who is like not yet even 40, who I feel like you've lived several creative lives. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I'm Dorian Gray. I feel, because I've been doing what I'm doing now since I was 9 years old, you know. And I think Jagged Little Pill, because I wrote it when I was 19, I think people may have thought that I was 30 years old when I wrote it, so they anticipate my being 50 years old now, which makes sense to me.
It's funny because I was just thinking, I'm like, she's only 37,
she's
38. How did that happen? She's been around for so long. How does it? Did you always have the sense that you were an old soul, which I think people have often remarked about you?
Yeah, and I never really knew how to interpret that exactly, other than to know that I was deeply thinking. And as I see it now, when I look back, I was just really hypersensitive, you know, and really attuned to the subtle smells and sounds and lighting and fabric and emotion. You know, I was an empath and really telepathic. So I was just this creature that, in more conservative circles, I was a freak, and in more sort of Northern California circles, I was normal.
Yeah, I love that. And when people still, often when you talk to artists, their seminal album or most famous album, they kind of don't want to talk about it. You seem happy to talk about Jagged Little Pill.
I love it. It's all part of an ongoing conversation to me, and some are more well known than others. So,
do people still approach you about it and say where they were at in their lives when that came out?
Yeah, which is awesome. I love the fact that I can be a soundtrack to someone's chapter in their life. Yeah. It's awesome.
That was the thing, is that when people found out I was doing this interview, everyone said, oh, I remember what I was going through when that CD came out.
Yeah, I've been part of people's divorces and helping them through their family suicides, and there's been a lot of intense, soundtracks that I feel I've been a part of inadvertently, but it's an honor.
I wanted to ask you, that brings me to the next question, which is that some of your best known work, including the most recent album before this one, had to do with coming out of difficult situations in life. Yeah. You seem like you're in a very happy place in your life on a personal level, certainly.
Yes.
How does it, because you're known for writing songs about going through challenging emotional things in your life, how does it feel now that you're happy?
Well, I've never considered any human being to be one-dimensionally anything. I think there's a groundedness that can come from growing. I like to think there's some hard-won wisdom there, which is very much the case. But my husband can attest to the fact that there's still anger and there's still frustration and testy feistiness. For me, it's about passion. So passion can write anything. Passionate frustration, passionate lust, infatuation, joy, despair. So it's if I am in this case passionate about anything, it'll move worlds and write songs.
Yeah. Tell me about Guardian.
Guardian, the chorus is about my son and my wanting to protect his safety and his freedom. That delicate blend that any mom or dad really wants to offer their child, I think. And then the verses, I could see the disparity between how I was being with my son and the attunement and love I was offering him, and the lack thereof that I was offering to my own self. So I really wrote about, in the verses, how I wanted to offer that same maternal love to my own self.
Right, because you get a sense that you're writing to two people, one very new person and one person who has walked through a lot of things.
Yeah, there.
I wondered about that, I have a few friends who are artists who've said, I worry if I ever become happy that I'll have nothing to write about.
Yeah, my message to anyone who's afraid that they can't write music when they're happy is just trust the passion. The passion can write a lot of things. This song, Till You, that I wrote on this record is about how excited I am to have monogamous, committed partnership with my husband after having a lot of false starts, to say the least, over the years. And anger, I think, takes different forms as we get older. It takes the form of social and political activism and standing up on behalf of one's own self and on behalf of children, on behalf of our friends, setting better boundaries and letting my anger be applied not just in music, but the courage that it now takes for me to take that into my personal life and actually speak directly with people when I'm angry in the moment. Because I used to get away with thinking I could just write it in songs, and I'd be a coward in my day-to-day life and just be a people-pleasing, kind woman, So I realized that if I wanted real healing, I had to actually step up and apply it to my friendships and my romantic relationship.
That's really interesting. And you have been outspoken on other issues. You have been actually in more recent years outspoken in avenues beyond your songwriting about PETA, about animal rights, World's Sexiest Vegetarian. That's always like a cool title, I think, to have. And more recently about attachment parenting. That got a lot of reaction.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by that?
I was, because I just assumed that everybody kind of understood it as an option. You know, not everyone can choose that for economic reasons, for philosophical reasons, religious reasons, whatever. Our sexual traumas. I mean, there's so many reasons why we would or would not choose a certain lifestyle. I just didn't realize the degree to which people were uninformed or uneducated about the whole idea of the stages of development in a child. So it's been a very passionate journey for me to articulate and render really clear this somewhat complicated issue, but for me it's a bit of a no-brainer now that I know about the stages of development in a child and what we can offer them in the best case scenario.
Did you ever, when you took a stance on things like attachment parenting or animal rights or ecology or anything like that, did you ever worry that being passionate about an issue would take the attention away from your music, away from Alanis the artist?
No, because there's a continuity between what I care about in any form. You know, I care about it in music, in article writing, in how I dress, in how I live, in my relationships, you know, in how I navigate paparazzi, in how I decorate my home. There's such a continuity between everything that I don't really care what form it shows up in. I'm most well known for my music. And eventually, ultimately, you know, I'll be writing books and writing articles. I'm still writing articles now, so I just consider myself a writer, to be honest.
Really? Yeah, I can see that. Actually, it's funny. We were talking about this before you came in, like your understanding of language, that there's a real love of language there.
Yes. Yeah.
It's interesting. I like that idea of continuity. I think that a lot of people, as they mature, that becomes the goal.
Yeah. And I think it becomes the offshoot of becoming more wise and becoming more mature, is that there is a continuity. There's an integrity to, there's a similarity between how we eat and how we decorate and how we show up. You know, there's a through line.
Yeah, and you become more comfortable being that same person in those different.
Yeah, and it's not an effortful thing. You know, I highly recommend getting older. It's the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the day.